checking. Okay, our next speaker is Peg Cagle. Here's your 3 statements. She danced with hundreds of sailors from the 6th Fleet while they were on shore leave. Linear algebra was her favorite math course that she took in college. And she was on the rifle team in high school, including 3 years as state champions, and went to the nationals when she was 15.
And then you put that somewhere. You got 2 pockets. And now that I'm thinking. Exactly. I guess so. Is this my spot? There's no box on the floor. I'm ready. Okay. Many of you in the audience probably know that I was a career changer. Probably many of you know that I am an architect. That opening slide mentioned the fact that I am National Board teacher. I'm also a National Board certified architect. I decided to go to Carnegie Mellon because I knew that my education was going to be super important to who I was as an architect. I had no clue what else I was going to learn. My first sort of meeting of architecture in school was when I was working in New York City, and I actually was the person in charge of that project there that you saw. So when I became a teacher, a lot of people thought this is how architecture informed what went on in my classroom. And I did a few Box City and paper tower projects, but that isn't really what it was about. I figured out that what these guys that I thought were telling me important ideas about architecture were really teaching me about was who I needed to be in the classroom. Less is more had nothing to do with a stripped down aesthetic in architecture. What it said to me was that I shouldn't over-explain when my students asked questions. I shouldn't answer everything that they asked. Less is a bore, on the other hand, wasn't only about the rich vocabulary that we should bring to our building aesthetic. It was also helping me to realize that if I wanted kids to fall in love with math, I had to give them something worth falling in love with. And I couldn't just give them bare, naked pages of problems upon problems upon problems upon problems when they didn't even want to do the first one. Form ever follows function wasn't just about the fact that I needed to think about whether the building was going to be used as a store and whether the entrance needed to go on the corner, and the notion that we could have things that grew organically. But it really said, it doesn't matter if it's small group or pairs or whole group instruction. Start with thinking about what your content's about and pick the form that makes it happen. Don't go the other way around. Louis Kahn famously said, I asked the brick what it wanted to be, because he recognized that if he didn't use materials in the way that they were best intended, they would never reach their highest use. They would never reach the pinnacle of what they might achieve. I figured out that was true of my students. That if I didn't know who they were, if I didn't know what set them on fire, if I didn't know what made them happy, I couldn't help them to be the mathematicians that would help them to carry forward and realize the dreams that they wanted. Frank Gehry isn't just famous for being a jerk. Frank Gehry is also very famous for wandering off in places where he didn't know what would happen. To me, that means that if I'm not willing to take a risk, if I'm not willing to push myself past my comfort zone, if I'm not willing to take on things that I'm not 100% sure of where they're going to go, how in the world do I have the arrogance to expect that of my kids? And why would they ever trust me? Tigerman is a hoot. He actually did say, if you can't make it big, paint it yellow. Because he wants to invigorate our environment with color. He sees the power of color. And what I realized is, yeah, I see the power of color too, because I realized that when I use it in my classroom, if I don't use it with some intentionality and attach it to meaning, my kids are going to attach the meaning for me, and they may actually learn things I never intended to teach. This one was so hard because there's so many quotes from Charlie Moore that are in my head every day, but I had to go with play. He talks about the human experience and the fact that if we don't make places, not just spaces, we'll never get people to remember anything. But I don't just mean play in math class, which is what a lot of those images. You see the one there that looks like it has nothing to do with play? That's because I had kids who saw a problem in taking a system of equations and figured out, you know what, if we combine those and we get a new system, the answer's still the same, and why does that happen? I want them to play with math. You'll notice probably most of you think Frank Lloyd Wright, you think architecture. Why didn't I quote him? All of his quotes are about arrogance. No place in math teaching. It just doesn't belong in my classroom. And this one, I think this one actually doesn't require translation. I'm just going to let that one soak in for you on its own.